Hola, amigo.
Hey, hola, mi
It's Bengal
amigo.
week, baby.
Let's get it. It's a big week, man. It's a big week.
Got a couple kitty cats coming to town. The
Yeah.
Cincinnati Bengals making their way to Arrowhead Stadium. We'll bold that first part of the stadium there. I'm excited, man. These guys, you said it in our last show, and honestly, I think it's a pretty accurate statement. Um, this has equal rivalry hype to what we get from a Raiders game, from a Broncos game. I don't know that I feel the way about the Chargers that I do about those two teams,
Yeah.
but the Bengals, man, I have a sincere, let's just call it passion for seeing them lose
Yes.
NFL games.
Yeah. Sunday was a nice feeling watching the Pats beat them. I mean, what a pitiful team in New England. And to just dominate the full football game against Cincinnati was glorious. Other than
Amazing.
my fantasy team being Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase led, it was a bit of a struggle for me on that side of things. But
I
yeah,
got I got lucky in that department. The team I have, Jamar Chase, I was going against George Kittle and Brandon Ayuk in the final game, and those guys put up damn near nothing. Um, but yeah, I feel that pain a little bit. Jamar Chase, not worth the first round pick, um, at least in fantasy. The Bengals obviously don't think he's worth the contract, and that's part of what has I think is plaguing them a little bit. But we'll talk about more of that here in a second.
yep.
Let's start with the injury report. It's still early in the week for us recording here, so there's probably going to be more injury updates and news as we kind of move through. But for the Chiefs, Hollywood Brown not really expected to make an appearance again, kind of going into week two. In addition to that, just some little bumps and bruises for everybody else to kind of monitor. Nothing too crazy. I know Leo Chenal had a little bit of an injury there in last week's game, so we'll see how much that's hindering him. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is still on the illness NFL I list or NFI list.
NFI. Yeah.
NFI. So we'll see if he makes his way back this week or what the parameters are for that.
I
Uh,
think that's a 4-week stint, maybe a 3-week stint.
okay, so kind of like PUP or IR
Yep. Yep.
then. Okay. So, I mean, other than that, man, I mean, it's just your normal bumps and bruises, kind of get your treatment in and come out for week two. On the Bengals side, it's really kind of a similar situation other than T. Higgins. So T. Higgins, I know, dealing with that hamstring injury, there's a lot of question marks about whether or not he's going to suit up for the Kansas City Chiefs game this coming Sunday. He missed last week's game as well. Jamar Chase apparently coming off of some food poisoning on Sunday as well. I'm sure he'll be cleared up by then. But ate some bad Skyline chili, didn't you, Jamar? But other than that, those guys are looking pretty good too. So nothing too crazy to report today. Who knows, man? The injury report, like, what do they have to report anymore? Christian McCaffrey listed as questionable, and then all of a sudden, 45 minutes before the game, he's not playing, and you've got Jordan Mason coming in.
Yeah.
So who knows? We don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean that part of the game is a little frustrating for me as a fan and as a fantasy football player. I know NFL doesn't give a shit, but
Imagine you put the anytime touchdown bet on a guy like Christian McCaffrey, who is probably the best odds for that to happen the entire week one, and then he doesn't play, and you're just out whatever you bet.
yeah, yeah, right. So
Tough
Dan,
deal.
we touched on it a little bit about the kind of what this game means to Kansas City. Obviously, in the past, specifically last year, Jamar Chase has had a lot of things to say about the Kansas City Chiefs. Kind of disrespecting our secondary last week or last year specifically. But over the course of the years, there's been a growing animosity between not just the Kansas City Chiefs and the Cincinnati Bengals, but Kansas City Chiefs fans and Cincinnati Bengals fans, right? When you
Yeah,
look at, and I'm speaking from my experience, Buffalo Bills fans hate the Bills, want to beat them every single time I see them on the field, blah, 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 blah. I respect the hell out of their fans. They seem like they know football. They have a good time.
they're
They're only
not
out
delusional.
really trying to support their team, and that's where their shit talking comes from. I'm all about that. That's how we operate in Kansas City. Cincinnati, on the other hand, operates a different way. They're looking to stick a knife in your gut and twist it around a little bit, pull it out, see how it feels, see how if you're dancing around, if you're still you got the fist up still, and if you punch back, they'll jab another one in your side and kind of twirl that knife around too. So that's not the way I like to dance. That's all right, but got to respect some other fan bases out there before I do the Cincinnati Bengals, but the play on the field has elevated to the fans. But to their point, to the credit of the Cincinnati Bengals, they have the Patrick Mahomes number, right? I think they're 3-1 against Pat. Or Joe Burrow's 3-1 against Pat.
Joe Burrow, yeah, we'll
Yeah, I was gonna say
say
we
that
took a
there.
we took a game against him when Joe was out,
We took
but
one before he was in.
so 3-3 against them with Pat.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of history between Kansas City and Cincinnati at this point. Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes specifically, but that kind of just brings back the same point we were talking about earlier, where it's a heavy week for both teams, right?
Yeah.
Both teams want to be able to take the win here against a rival and have that leverage when it comes early January.
100%. And I like, obviously the fan bases love to chirp each other on social media. There's always the, Burrowhead memes that come out, or it's the, where's your rings at comments that come out from Chiefs fans. But I don't think the fans would have as much animosity in this situation if it wasn't for the trash talk that was happening from Bengals players. And maybe I'm biased in how that looks, but Jamar Chase wouldn't even say Patrick Mahomes' name when he was asked who the number one quarterback is. He had to put on this whole uh, basically scared kind of facade type of thing before he finally said, "I'm sticking with my quarterback, number one." But it's like everyone knew who he's talking about, right?
Right, right.
The Burrowhead stuff, the Eli Apple stuff, all of that has kind of built this monster of a rivalry between the Chiefs and Bengals. So when they come to Kansas City on Sunday, the Bengals fans, the Chiefs fans in the crowd, there's going to be plenty to talk about, and I'm sure it's all going to be pleasantries that are exchanged in that scenario.
Yes, it will be. But that makes for a fun atmosphere in Arrowhead. It's going to be a live game. But Dan, let's jump into those specifics. Looking at the game from a Chiefs perspective, how do we go out and get the dub this weekend?
The Chiefs' perspective is my favorite perspective. I think the big thing that Kansas City has to do when they hit the field is continue the offensive success that was had in the Baltimore Ravens game, right? None of the mental errors, get right down the field, put up points early, and stay up early. And I think a lot of that comes from their ability to make the passing game work. This Bengals secondary is not what it was in years past, right? Awuzie is gone. Jesse Bates is gone. Von Bell is back. He's a little bit older now. But a lot of those players, Eli Apple, who had a lot to talk about, those guys are not with the Cincinnati Bengals anymore. It's kind of a new regime on that back end. So it starts with seeing what the team is going to be able to do from that point. But at the same time, it's making sure that the protection is good, right? Their defensive line is good still. Trey Hendrickson can eat when he gets
Yep.
cooking, right?
Yep.
Sam Hubbard is solid. they have some other players on that defensive line that can really make an impact. So I think it starts with getting up early, making sure the discipline is good on that offensive side of the ball, and protecting Patrick Mahomes from those guys that are wanting to drag him down to the turf. I mean, that's that in my mind. Those are the big pieces that the Chiefs need to cover to make sure they get the dub against the Bengals.
Absolutely. And to jump over to the Bengals side here, just to look at it through a Bengals lens, I think what they missed last week, or one of the big things they missed last week, was getting the ball to those big playmakers that can explode for them, right? And so I think that's going to be a focus. I think that was obviously one of the glaring issues for the Cincinnati Bengals. So I think coming into the game, it's going to be a heavy Jamar Chase load. I think you mentioned earlier that there was a overcast from the Jamar Chase, extension talks. I
Yep.
think that clips off either right now and they continue on business as normal, or that hangs around all season. I don't think there's a middle ground here. And quite honestly, I think they're going to clip it off and figure something out this season. They're going to be a good football team, but they're going to
No,
get Jamar Chase the ball and continue playing good ball, or
it's
start
early.
playing good ball this year.
It's early. It's week one. I mean, you'd be delusional to think the Bengals aren't gonna turn it up. Zach Taylor's 1-10 in the month of September in his career as a Bengals head coach. Not a lot they have doing early on in the year. I mean, what was it? The 2021 season, the Bengals were like 1-3, 1-4 out the gate, and then they turned it around and had the best record in the second half of the season and ultimately fell to the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. But the point is they got it all together, and I think that's something that whenever you factor in the sheer motivation that these guys are going to have stepping on the field in Arrowhead to take on a team that honestly most of those players hate.
Yeah.
Um, it's going to be playoff mentality, right? Because this game is going to carry a lot of implications for how the playoffs ultimately play out
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
going towards the
Agreed.
back end of that season. This is a very valuable tiebreaker to have for AFC standings because I think both of these teams have the potential to win their respective divisions. And if that ends up happening, then you're battling for seeding to see who's going to get that coveted week one bye. So the Bengals, they're able to limit that explosiveness, break us down on third downs as well from a defensive perspective. And if we're not able to maintain that bend don't break defense, we're going to have problems keeping these guys at bay. But Vegas seems to think we're in good shape,
Yep.
especially after the Patriots game, giving us 6 points at home. So I don't know, man. It seems it's going to depend on what Bengals team shows up to Arrowhead. I think that
Right.
matters a ton. I think that
No, I,
matters a ton.
I agree 100%. This could be a same kind of scenario as it was last week for the Chiefs, where it comes down to the last play of the game, or it could be one of those games where we just kind of we score, they score, we score, we score, and we're just kind of up by 10 or 7 or 3 the whole time, and just kind
Yeah.
of ride that out
Don't
to the
really
win of the
run away
game.
from it with it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's kind of where I see this going. But as far as talks as who needs this game more, I think it's obvious that the Bengals, have to have a dub. They can't come out 0-2, especially being against the Chiefs. I think it's important for the team to get a kickstart out to 1-1 and not fall in that kind of trajectory that they're headed down right now. And then obviously, losing to the Pats isn't just a loss. It's kind of it's humiliating to lose to the New England Patriots, right?
Right
And
now it is. Yeah.
and so I think there is a level of self-respect and some confidence that comes out of winning a game, and I think there's an understanding of that in Cincinnati that they need that.
Yeah. No, I could see that absolutely. I think the Chiefs in I don't think the Chiefs do not need this win. Just so I can say that before I give my point because of everything I talked about just a minute ago, right? The playoff implications that surround these first two games. I said it as soon as the schedule came out. These first two games, Ravens, Bengals, could very well decide the ultimate playoff standings at the end of the year. And it's crazy to think that the playoff standings can be decided in the first 2 weeks of the NFL season.
Yep.
Obviously, there's a lot of season left to go. But
Right.
because of the way tiebreakers have broken down in previous years and because of the way that the NFL is structured with the parity that it has, there's a lot of weight with these two games and with playing these contenders. So I'm not saying the Chiefs don't need this win because they very much do. But I agree with you. I think the Bengals need it more. I think the the history with them getting the better of the Chiefs in most of the matchups, but having less success as a whole, it gets to them. It creates this mental sort of uh, this mental beast that just kind of lingers around them, where they just come in and they give it their all against us, but then they, kind of shoot their load, for lack of a better term, and they can't like carry that into another matchup here. So at least they haven't proven that they can. So
Yeah.
Zach Taylor with his history early in the season, Andy Reid with his history early in the season, with Zach Taylor being what, 1-10, I say earlier.
Yep.
Andy Reid has like a damn near 90% win rate in
Yeah.
the month of September, as the Chiefs coach. So knowing that that's the trend going into this game, and the Chiefs are coming off of 10 days rest, yeah, I feel pretty damn good. Yeah, I feel pretty good about what these guys are going to come in here and do
Agreed.
at
So
home.
going right into that, Dan, with the spread, Kansas City -6 at home, over under set at 48. Quick picks, where you at?
Quick picks, man. I'm taking the under on the 48 point total. I have a feeling that drops. I have a feeling that continues to drop as more people take the under. Probably going to start game time around 47 and a half, so that Vegas gets that kicker. I don't see a full like point and a half, 2 point drop. I think they keep the kicker, but I can see that going to 47 and a half. As far as the spread goes, I think Cincy bounces back enough to cover at +6. So I could see this being every single Mahomes and Burrow matchup has been decided by 3 points. If this is a situation where the
Ooh.
Bengals do not cover, then it would be the very first time that these two teams have matched up and it has not come down to a 3 point game.
Interesting.
So I think the Chiefs win. I think the Chiefs win by 3. I'll give a score prediction at 27-24, just to keep it kind of in the same vein of what the score has been traditionally. Um, but yeah, or I guess that would put it at the over, wouldn't it?
I was about to say that puts you at the over,
We'll
bro.
say 23-20 then.
There we
23-20.
go. There we go. All right, I'm rolling with Kansas City -6. I think this is an obvious better football team than we've probably had in the last year, obviously. Maybe even better than the 23 Super Bowl winning football team. And so I think we play Cincinnati much better than we did, last two seasons, especially with Joe Burrow in. I'm taking Kansas City -6. And then, like you, I like the under at 48. I don't think this is a shootout. If we were going to see a shootout, we would have saw it last week, I think. But I kind of like this one sitting at like 23-17, sitting around there. 24-17. I don't think the Chiefs score under 23. I think we're going to kind of set that precedence around 24, 25, 26 for the season. So that's kind of where I see this one leading towards.
Man, if Kansas City blows Cincinnati out, I'll tell you, man, I'm gonna be feeling real damn good going into week 3. After this game at 2-0, knowing that they've locked up games against two of the top contenders in the AFC North and two of the top contenders in the AFC period. I think the North
Yeah.
has the best top to bottom division. So they're presenting the biggest challenge, and we just so happen to play each and every one of those 4 teams this year. Um, so that would be a really good feather in the cap and a phenomenal start to the season as a fan of the team, you really can't ask for more than that. So I'm excited to get back out there, man. 3:25 kickoff. Parking wasn't so bad.
No.
The situation was not so bad. Let's keep that going in. Let's keep those good vibes going into Sunday, man. Make sure you follow the show at the fastest underscore 40, Twitter, IG, Facebook, all that good stuff. Our social media handles are down below, right next to our names. Trey, you got anything else for the people?
Let's go Chiefs. Hey, I talked about it last week or earlier this week when we finished up the Ravens cover there. But make sure you're loud. Make sure you're at the game. You're there early. Don't roll in second quarter. Don't be that guy. Don't be that guy.
No one likes that guy.
Get in early. Be loud. Make Arrowhead what it is. This is a rivalry. So let's go out beat the Bengals.
Bengal week, baby. Go Chiefs. We'll
Let's
see y'all later.
go.